Hey Terraria fans, welcome back to another speed build video. Guys, in this one we're finally getting back to building our NPC themed homes, and this one is going to be for the Wizard. Now, I've been thinking about how to do this one for quite some time. I mean, the traditional thinking was always to build some sort of ivory tower, maybe floating in the sky, and that's all well and good, but that's kind of what a lot of people do, and I wanted to do something, well, a little less traditional. But listen, don't get me wrong, we're not building something that unique. It's going to be a tower that's definitely floating in the sky, but there are some pretty unique twists that I hope inspire you to try something, well, different in your next build, or if you're trying to build something for the Wizard like I did. Now guys, one additional thing I will say about this build is I really wanted to play around with a lot of different colors. I find I tend to keep my palette quite tame, so I kind of went a little bit crazy, but I think you guys will probably still think it's decent. At least I hope you will. Now, speaking of liking things, guys, if you do like any of the content here on the channel, do feel free to hit that like, that subscribe, or the little dinner bell thingy so you can know when the next video hits the old YouTube universe. Because it's free, and it helps, and I greatly appreciate it. Oh, and before we actually jump into the build, guys, do stay until the end of the video because I will be highlighting all of the materials that I use for this build in case you want to maybe, well, build something similar or replicate it exactly. All right, so that's enough rambling from me, guys. Let's get to the build, shall we? All right, folks, so with that speed build done for the Wizard's home, we're going to go ahead and cover all of the materials that I actually used to put this thing together. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is, yes, there are 2 chests here because we used a ton of different materials. Now, that variety, of course, lends itself to all of the fun and the detail, but it also means we've got a lot of different elements. So let's start with the first chest. Now in this one, guys, you can see we've got a ton of different materials, so I do encourage you to pause the video here and take a closer look. Now, nothing is really standing out all that much except for a handful of different things. Now, in my mind, while this is actually full of different materials, there are quite a few standouts, and the ones that come to mind are going to be our starry wallpaper, our emerald stone wall, our crimstone wall, and our green mossy wall. Now, we did use these in some combination, but where we used, I think, these 3 right here, the crimstone wall, the emerald stone wall, and the green mossy wall, is we actually combine that with negative paint to get those kind of portal looking things that almost look like a weird tree of some kind. They're meant to be portals, but they look like a tree. The point is, it was something new and really fun to do, and it just kind of had a really interesting texture. We then also used some arcane rune walls, very sparingly, but a few of them here and there as well. Then in a couple of spots, I did go with some shroomite plating as well as some copper plating, and then we also used some pearlstone brick, some marble columns, and some rich mahogany. And again, this is for various kind of elements, get a bit of that kind of stone or masonry look, and I think generally looks pretty good. For paints, guys, we used a wide variety, including some pink, some negative paint, like I already pointed out, some deep purple, and some purple paint. We also used some gray, some white, some shadow paint, and of course, some echo coating. And this was mainly used to kind of make the books look like they're floating, because obviously those are sitting on platforms. So that covers 1 chest's worth of materials, and we're gonna go ahead and open the second one. And yeah, there's still a lot in here, guys, and again, I encourage you guys to pause the video if you want to take a closer look. Now, again, guys, we are using some pretty interesting stuff I don't typically use. For me, the shell pile, as well as the living ultra bright fire blocks, some coral stone blocks, and some luminite brick are kind of standouts because I just really don't use those that often. We did also use bubble, which is something else that I have to say I don't really take advantage of as much as I'd like. Now, obviously, if you look around the build, you'll kind of be able to tell where I've actually placed these, well, within the design. And then we also did use a couple of different walls that maybe aren't super familiar to you, but ones that I use infrequently: sandstone wall, disc wall, and then we're also going to use the corrupt tendril wall, which I typically like to use for trees, but I use in a few different spots. And again, for paints, a wide variety. We use some lime, some brown, some deep blue, some yellow, some aluminum coating, and some sky blue paints. Now, again, guys, if you were to replicate something like this, you could use pretty much any material in any combination with any color. But if you want to do exactly what I did, well, then you're going to have to take all these materials and try to make something rather similar. But anyways, that's a lot of materials covered, guys. I hope that gives you a better sense. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the rest of the video. All right, guys, so there you go. There is the final product, our NPC themed home for the Wizard. I don't really know what you want to call it, a sky tower or sky castle, but it's got some really unique features. And you can tell, like I said at the beginning of this video, we went kind of hard with all the different colors. Now, of course, that said, we did kind of try to keep a base level of color and theme to this. So we went with white, purple, and some pink. But there's a lot of little kind of intricate details, and I think probably the thing that stands out the most to me is either going to be those bubbles that kind of give you a window or a view into a different biome, and of course the fountain on the left side. I don't know, I just like the way it looks. I also do like that tiny detail of the books kind of floating around. I think I might have went a little bit overboard there, but again, it kind of has a nice little feature. Oh, and other things I kind of went a little overboard on are definitely the clouds. I went kind of crazy with them. I was trying to make it look like this thing was moving through the air, and I don't think I quite achieved that, but sometimes this happens, guys. One thing I'll say is when you make large builds, you try to scale everything up, and I kind of went a little bit crazy with the clouds, so, it happens. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's all I have to say about that. Do let me know what you think in the comments down below. What you like, what didn't you like, or maybe what you'd change. And of course, if there's something you'd like to see in a future video. Because, I may build it. Who knows? Anyways, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this video. And as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.